The biggest thing to get out of the book, and I kind of touch on it a little bit, is what I call the three pillars of drafting: drafting the right thing, drafting the thing right, and drafting fast.
Welcome to Verify Infield, the Millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Welcome back, everybody, to Verify Infield. Today I have with me Negus Negesti. He is the author of recently released book, The Freelancer's Guide to Millwork Drafting. You'll see him on social media as the Millwork Drafter. We did some work together in the past life at USA Millwork, and obviously Negus, I'm excited to have him share a little bit about his book and just his experience in drafting, both in the millwork industry and as a freelancer. Welcome to the show, Negus.
Hey, how's it doing, Jacob? How you been?
Good. I think to get started, would you mind just giving a little bit about your background, how you first got involved in the millwork industry and millwork drafting specifically?
So I've been in this millwork industry for about 20 plus years now. I think I go back to when I want to date myself, but go back to 2002, when I first got introduced through a contract furniture manufacturing company called Sorrentino Mariani. They basically did a lot of furniture for your high-end Marriott hotels, your Westins, and things of that nature. So started with them. I was just a guy loading a truck. Then it went from loading the truck to being on the shop floor to operating the saws, the beam saws, the CNCs. And one of the engineers at the time, he took a liking to me and gave me their drafting software to take on. I learned it, and they gave me a shot at the drafting table, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. And I think that's a journey similar to, many of us share. Many got people listening out here who have been engineers and drafters in this industry, starting through the shop floor and working their way in until one day the call came, hey, can you learn the software? Can you come help us with drafting?
Yeah.
Can you share some of the highlights of your career? Obviously, how particularly your experiences since that point have shaped your perspective on drafting and millwork. Now you've written this book that you've put out there, The Freelancer's Guide to Millwork Drafting. You worked also for many years now doing drafting for many different companies. Can you talk about how your experience as a drafter and as somebody working in the shop and as you've grown have shaped your perspective now and what you're sharing in the book?
I've been on the East Coast for the majority of my career. Like I said, when I was the furniture manufacturing company, I was with them for roughly about 10 years. I think before then, I didn't know what architectural millwork was. It was just all, up to that point, it was just furniture. Everything changed for me when I went to work for a company called Allen Architectural Woodworks up in New York. And that just opened my eyes to a whole new side of millwork that was really exciting, stressful as well. It was really fast paced. It was a lot more dollars at risk at that time. But yeah, I think it's funny because at the time I was also in college for drafting and design when I made the move to New York, coming from Virginia, but by the way. So I made the move to New York, and that was probably my years I spent in Allen Architectural was probably equated to 8 years of college. It was a lot of learning and learning on the fly and figuring things out, but it was probably the best move I could have ever made.
Yeah. So would you say, obviously you experienced, like you said, it packed a lot, like 8 years of college in there, but I assume you kind of learned a lot of things the hard way, as many of us do in this industry. And, thinking about what inspired you to write this book, The Freelancer's Guide to Millwork Drafting, was that experience and maybe being able to help others kind of fast track that knowledge part of it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like you mentioned, it was a lot of trial by error. That's the way something just has to be learned. You have to make mistakes in this game. It's not pass or fail. It's pretty much either you pass and you learn. There's no downside to that. The idea for the book, what the inspiration for the book came from me working with, I was with another company in that island, had an outsourcing team that they was trying to bring up to speed and needed my help to bring them along. So I had to try and get them acclimated to the U.S. manufacturing process as soon as I could. And you know, most drafters from out of the country, they are technical skilled, whether it's AutoCAD or cabinet vision, microvellum. They have the skills. It's just they're not clear on the manufacturing process and how all that goes. So in the book I do discuss the importance of like understanding each step in the process from procurement to engineering to the shop floor, all the way to the installation, and try to tie all that together so they can get an understanding of some of the pitfalls and some of the minefields that they may come up, or try to avoid those minefields when they draft, and then try to understand how we process our furniture or our wall panels, whatever it may be. So
Yeah. So yeah, more and more today, newer drafters are coming to this industry that don't have the benefit of the hands-on experience, you had with starting in the shop, right?
right,
But they're technically skilled in drafting and CAD software and things like that. But what they're lacking is that hands-on experience of how the products are built that they're drawing, right?
right.
Would you talk a little bit about who this book is intended for? Is it aimed just at those newer drafters? Is it just for experienced people, or kind of who is the intended audience?
The book, honestly, I feel like it's for any drafter, regardless of your skill set. I will say it leans more towards those who are newer into the industry. Cause I didn't think, okay, I'm going to write a book and start writing a book. It really didn't happen that way. It started out as me creating an outline for SOP to help those new guys or those outsourced people understand. So the way the SOP was being written, it was almost like reading a book. So I figured, why not just make it a book? So this really in the outline to a much more comprehensive version that I'm currently working on now. But yeah, and I feel it's more important that we start with the foundation, just to really just go over the standards that apply to millwork in general, regardless of what the company is or what need that they serve. So I mean, it's easy to teach the hows, the whens, the wheres, but the why, the why is so important. And that's what I'm attempting to achieve with this book, to get them to understand the why factor.
Awesome. And so, this is all about millwork drafting specifically, and millwork drafting is unique when you compare it to other types of drafting or other trades, architectural drafting, electrical drafting. There's tons of them, right? Can you talk a little bit about what differs, what we do with millwork drafting, what makes it so specialized compared to, other trades?
It's a good question. I think all drafting disciplines are unique in their own right. And I think that uniqueness is evident when you try to, let's say, you try to bring a mechanical drafter, trying to bring them into the millwork industry. Most people will assume that would be an easy transition, but it's not. Some of those skills don't carry over to millwork the way people think it would. You take even somebody who's already in architecture, maybe you got somebody that's doing BIM modeling. It's going to be the same thing. It may be a little easier, but there's still going to be some hiccups in trying to translate that skill set over into millwork, and vice versa. You can't take a millwork guy and just put him into silver drafting. But I think for me, I think the unique thing about millwork drafting to me, even with all the standards and the rules, there's so much space for creativity in millwork. We work with so many different varieties of material: wood, metal, glass, acrylics, fabric. I mean, we get to play with all of that. So at the end of the day, we get to meld that into something that's unique and custom that nobody else has. So that's the differentiation to me between millwork and all the other drafting disciplines out there, is that creativity factor that we still have, I think more so than anybody else. I think in the book I referred to it as art because I don't know if you ever seen it. I've seen some really good shop drawings that you could almost put a picture frame around and hang it on your wall. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of like both the biggest pro and also the biggest con. What makes it hard to be a millwork drafter is how, most other trades, there are very, very clearly defined standards and codes.
Right.
And so, like with electro drafting, there's pretty much universally accepted codes for where switches need to be and how you label them, what symbols are used on the drawings and things like that. And in millwork, every shop varies heavily how they like to build things. And also there's so many things that we encounter on a project by project basis that maybe have never been built before. And so it does require creativity, but within that, you also have to communicate with a lot of people to coordinate. I could draw the same custom desk as you, and we could both meet the design intent of the architect, but we might detail the internals completely differently than each other.
Exactly.
And both can be right, but it's really dependent on who's going to build it, how they like to assemble, how they like to cut the parts. Are they going to come on the CNC or the saw? There's a lot of variables to take into account. And so it is a heavy mix of creativity, technical knowledge, as well as really project management coordination with many different stakeholders.
Correct.
Well, talking more about your book, can you walk us through what readers can expect from the book? So for somebody who hasn't picked it up, if you're listening to this and you're curious, we'll put in the show notes links where you can go straight and buy the book and look at what it's about. But for those that are curious, can you walk us through a little bit what they can expect, any highlights and kind of reading through it? I know you've got it structured where you go chapter by chapter through a few different topics, including AWI and kind of setting up your workspace and things like that. But as a high-level overview, what can people expect if they're going to pick up your book and read it?
Yeah, like I said, right now it's basically structured like as an outline. Again, like I said, I'm kind of working on more comprehensive version. This was something that I wanted to get out sooner than later, just to help those freelance drafters that I currently work with. For me, I think the biggest thing to get out of the book, and I kind of touch on it a little bit, is what I call the 3 pillars of drafting: drafting the right thing, drafting the thing right, and drafting fast. I think those 3 concepts pretty much touch and cover just about anything that you have in regards to drafting. I can't take credit for that phrase. I'm not sure if I heard it somewhere or I read it, but it's stuck. Drafting the right thing, drafting the thing right, and drafting fast. So I pretty much take that concept and I carry it throughout the book and how it relates to planning, how it relates to proficiency. Not only proficiency, efficiency as well. I think if you can make that your foundation, I think your projects, your job, what have you, will just be much easier, come to you much easier down the line.
Yeah, I know. I think that's awesome. I want to reinforce those 3 bullet points. And I think that not only does everything kind of boil down to those 3, but I think also in that order.
Right.
Drafting the right thing. You talk about, okay, getting the right scope. What are we including? What are we excluding? Are we drawing the right items?
Correct.
And then drafting the thing right. So once you've got, I'm drawing the right thing, I've got these cabinets in this room, but not the countertops, or I've got these cabinets and countertops, but not the wall panels, right?
Correct.
Then you can focus on drafting that right, drafting the thing right, which is, okay, are we drawing it the way we're going to build it? Are we drawing it the way the client wants it? Or are we drawing it some way that we can't provide and we're going to create issues downstream? Are we coordinating with other trades? Are we coordinating with the right sink or hardware equipments, right? And that all goes into drafting the thing right. Do we have the right materials? Do we have the right thicknesses? All those types of things. And then is drafting fast. And I think that comes last, but it's equally important because it doesn't matter if you draw fast and you draw the wrong thing the wrong way.
Right.
But once you've got drawing the right thing and you've got the thing right, then speed is what's important. And so I think that is also something that is, in the construction industry in general, but definitely in millwork is so key, because generally we come last on the job site or one of the final finished trades to go in, but everything is always a rush. And so, it doesn't matter if we've got the thing right and the thing drawn right, the right thing, if we're way too late to get it approved and reviewed to meet the job schedule. Correct. And so many people sacrifice drawing the thing right to hit the schedule.
Right.
And so I think that's where becoming a really good drafter comes in, is, are you able to do both, draw the right thing, clarify scope up front, clarify details to draw it right, and meet the schedule. And if you do those first 2 things right, it also helps the whole operation of manufacturing to meet the schedule down the road. Because it doesn't help to get it done on time if you've got things wrong, if they're scrambling and going back and having to get questions answered and clarified that weren't done when you drew things.
It's the three pillars. You can't have one without the others. It doesn't work.
So this is obviously the Freelancer's Guide to Millwork Drafting, and we've talked a lot about what the millwork drafting part of that looks like, but this is the Freelancer's Guide specifically. And obviously you and I both know freelance drafting plays a huge role in our industry, for many reasons, and both for better and for worse. Can you talk a little bit about why freelance drafting is so important and so prevalent for companies in our industry?
I think it's just when the company opened themselves up to freelance drafting, they open themselves up to a much, much larger pool of talent to bring in, rather than just, you know what I'm saying, the local, what you have, you know what I'm saying, to your reach locally. And also, even with the larger pool of talent, they're also bringing in a unique perspective on our craft. I mean, just like I said, just millwork is also a creativity thing. So it always helps to just have a different viewpoint from somebody 9,000 miles away that could add to, you know what I'm saying, to our craft. And I think once a company can land on a good freelancer, or he, she, or even a freelancing company, the main hurdle after that is getting them familiar with how you operate, you know what I'm saying, your standards and your practices. That's always a hurdle. But once you get across that, then you have your own A-team, so to speak, at your disposal. So now you're also bringing in a more leaner, more cost-efficient drafting process into your grand scheme of things. So I think a company opening themselves up to freelancers, to outsourcing, I think it's always a plus. A lot of people see the hurdle of, like I say, getting them acclimated to their practices. That's not really a hard thing to do. And once you get over the hurdle, then it's all on rainbows and sunshine after that. I wish more companies would do that and see the opportunity there. But
yeah, I mean, I think what people need to understand, is that obviously, yes, the ideal best case scenario is that you were able to handle everything internally with your internal staff, and you were able to plan your capacity to know that we could hire enough drafters, have them trained on time, and they're just there when we need them.
Right.
The reality is that your workflow doesn't kind of flow that way. When you land a huge job, it's maybe 6 months or a year down the road for shop capacity, but the submittals have to be done now.
Right.
And it's impossible really to just scale up and say, okay, I need 20 drafters for a month, but then I only need 5 for the next 3 months.
Exactly.
And so having those resources just available when you need them, but not when you don't, doesn't work. And also being able to staff up temporarily.
I mean,
that's the first part of freelancing, right?
Right. And that's primarily the reason why most companies, they don't have just drafters, they have drafter engineers. So that, you know what I'm saying? So when they're not drafting, you try and make use for them in another process. But like I said, having that outsourced team at your disposal allows your drafter engineers to focus on engineering, because engineering takes time. That's a meticulous process. If you want your products to be machined correctly, if you want the shop to be able to have the engineers at their disposal, at their readiness when they have questions and things like that. So you want your engineers to be comfortable and have the time and the capability to do the things that they need to do without having the stress of dealing with submittal drawings and things of that nature. So
yeah, and those are two different, a lot of companies, you have the same people doing both the drafting and engineering, and usually that's where everybody starts.
Right.
But eventually you get to a scale and a size where those end up really being two different phases in the project life cycle. It's getting submittals done, and then it might be months later when it's time for engineering. And what happens then too is those kind of become competing tasks of,
Correct.
Well, I need this one guy to be feeding the shop right now, doing engineering on projects that have already been approved, but I also need these submittals done right now. And you can't do both.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the first things. It's like, okay, well, I need to keep my shop busy. If I can have these guys keep focusing on that, then I need somebody else to focus on the jobs that need to be submitted right now. And that's usually kind of the first stage where companies are like, okay, let's look at exploring outsourcing. And that's the key, is that those partners are there when you need them and not when you don't.
Exactly.
But it does take work to be able to onboard them and get to a point where when you do need them and you do need to engage them, you have processes that they're able to meet your needs. And I think, like you said, that it's not hard unless you don't already have defined internally what your process is or
Right.
how you guys draw.
Right.
And if your process is really just a person that has that knowledge, then yes, it's very difficult to communicate to an outsourced partner what you need them to do and how you want them to do it. And I think that's what this book is. As you said, you started this for a training manual, basically, or
Right.
SOP document.
Right.
And I think that's what's so key, is this book outlines basically what every company needs to do anyways, which is how do we draft and what's important for us for drafting. So looking ahead at our industry, we've talked a lot about your experience. We talked about the book, but looking at just the industry as a whole, a lot of things have changed that you've seen in the last 20 years, right? And in that 20 years, obviously the industry has heavily gone towards automation and CNC machinery and manufacturing. Software has changed. We've started to see more CAM-based software coming in. We've got microdevelopment, cabinet vision, and many options, but we're still heavily drawing in AutoCAD, right?
Right.
What are some other changes or advancements that you see for the industry in the future coming for us, and even just in terms of drafting and technology? What do you see in the future for our industry?
Let's see, what are we again? I thoroughly believe that drafting will always continue to play a pivotal role in the millwork process for years to come. What the difference would be, however, it's going to be a change in the medium in which we use the draft. I mean, because if you think about it, 40s, 50s, all the way up to the late 80s, where we had large rooms of 20, maybe 25 drafters all sitting at the drafting table, physically drafting on paper. And now what, we're sitting in front of our computer screens and we draw on the screen. This too will become antiquated. I could really see maybe in the next, I'll say maybe in the next 10, 15 years, we can be drafting with goggles on, For real. I believe that's going to be the next step. It's going to be, I won't call it a metaverse, but it definitely will be drawn into the cloud, and there's not going to be computer screens. So you're going to be a grandfather explaining to your grandchildren what a computer was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to be the future of the millwork industry. It's going to be off the computer screen. It's going to be joined in a virtual space.
So more, leveraging augmented reality or virtual reality tools and changing the way we work. Obviously, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You already said, that you see millwork drafting continuing, though, to be pivotal, even though the tools we use might change.
Right.
I think that makes a lot of sense. It's still going to be key that we have to define up front and show it virtually, digitally. However, what are we building and how are we going to build it, for approval?
Yeah, I mean, the drafting tentacles touch every part of the millwork process. I mean, it tells purchasers what to order, tells engineers what to program, the shop what to make, the installers what to install. So it's still a key feature to our processes. Like I said, the only thing that may change is the medium, but that medium has to go to print at some point in time, unless you want to have people walk around your shop floor with goggles on everywhere. But yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Well, you already talked about what we see staying the same. That was going to be my next question, which is drafting will continue to be there. Are there any other innovations outside of drafting that you see coming? Obviously what millwork manufacturers handle has grown over the last 20 years, more metal, more resin, more materials, more types of things. Are there any other trends you're starting to see as you work with clients, or these you see changing just for our industry as a whole?
I'm really excited about what I'm seeing in the point cloud technology. I think that has really come a long way since I was first introduced to it.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been tinkering with software called Open Space, and I'm amazed at the amount of information I'm able to retrieve from that software. I mean, it's phenomenal. It gives me answers to questions that I probably would never have thought to ask. It's packed chock full of information in that software to be able to be on site. For those who don't know, you know what I'm saying, it allows us to me to be on site, see whatever obstacles that I may be dealing with in that space, and it allows me to draft according to that. I can see that technology easily morphing into giving us the ability to put us virtually into that physical space. I think that's where that technology is going. Just the thought of that excites me a little bit. Again, going back to the goggles. But yeah, I guess see that point cloud technology is really impressive, and I can't wait to see what comes out of that.
Awesome. Yeah. So the open space, that's like where they will take 360 photos of the job site, and then you can virtually basically go in that space.
Correct.
But also with the point cloud technology, it's not just pictures. There's actually some level of measurement.
Yes. You can go ahead, you pull your own DIMs out of it. I can't remember which. I'm not sure you can do that. I'm just tinkering with open space. I'm not sure if you could do that with open space or not, but I have seen some point cloud technology where you can go in and you can get your dimensions. That's
awesome.
It's awesome.
Well, Negus, I appreciate you coming on and sharing about your book. For anybody who's listening, who's interested in finding out more about your book or the Millwork Drafter or what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
Visit the website on the millworkdrafter.com. The book is being sold on Amazon. You can also buy it through the site. We on LinkedIn, we on Facebook, we on Instagram, all the millwork.com, the same thing. And yeah, just hop on, tag me, drop a line, drop a heart.
Yeah, awesome. We'll link that all on our show notes. So if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you can go to the show notes and go straight to the millworkdrafter.com. Negus, it was great having you on. I always enjoy when we get to chat, and I appreciate you sharing about your book and your experience and your story.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thanks for bringing me on. Love talking to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.